So in this video, we're diving deep into Hysolins, the new 5-star physical nihility unit coming in version 3.5 of Honkai Star Rail. If you're someone who's been playing around with damage over time teams, especially after Kafka's buffs in 3.4, you've probably been wondering whether Hysolins is going to push the team into meta-relevance, or if she's just another side grade. Beta testers have finally weighed in, and what they're saying is a mix of hype, frustration, and honest realism. So let's go through how she works, what makes her valuable, and why some players are calling her both essential and disappointing at the same time. Save up to 25% on the Phanon banner at lootbar.gg. All you need is your UID and server. The link is in the description. Let's start with her role in the team. If Ceridra is Phanon's DLC, then Hysolins is 100% the DLC for the Kafka Black Swan comp, but her position is more than just another add-on. She's being compared by some players to full-fledged expansion content, like Iceborne or Sunbreak. In other words, if you're already running a DOT team, getting Hysolins is pretty much a no-brainer. She plugs a critical gap that's been missing since the core of the team was formed, and you don't even have to dig that deep to see why. In 3.4, Kafka received a set of buffs that brought her back into the spotlight, and the DOT archetype finally started looking viable. Players began to explore full DOT setup seriously, but they kept running into the same wall: lack of consistent damage output and synergy. That's where Hysolins enters the picture. She brings high physical damage over time, strong debuffing tools, and battlefield control that help stabilize the entire setup. You're not just slotting in another DPS, you're finally getting the missing puzzle piece that ties Kafka and Black Swan together into a functioning competitive team. And yet, despite this praise, a lot of testers are frustrated with how she was implemented. The biggest criticism isn't about her numbers or animations, it's about her role. A lot of players were hoping for a true support character to round out the DOT comp. Someone who would amplify Kafka and Black Swan's effects, give energy regeneration, boost damage over time multiplier, or apply team-wide buffs. But instead, what we got is another DPS. A strong one, sure, but still one that takes up the spotlight rather than supporting others. Watson Leaks described her as a preservative, a way to keep the DOT team from rotting. That sounds dramatic, but it's honestly kind of accurate. She doesn't fundamentally fix the weaknesses of the archetype, like energy dependency, team inflexibility, or how hard it is to find universal supports. Instead, she's just enough of a boost to keep the team fresh and playable for another few patches. In their words, if Kafka and Black Swan are the meat of the comp, Hysolins is the ingredient that keeps that meat from spoiling. It's a vivid image, but it really gets the point across. She helps the team feel finished, but she's not a final solution. And here's where it gets tricky. While she's being positioned as a main DPS, she isn't overwhelming. She's not doing Aglia or My Day numbers. She's not erasing enemies in one turn. But her performance is consistent, and she can comfortably carry a DOT team through Memory of Chaos with competitive clear times. That's no small feat, because when you compare her to other meta DPS units, especially in the 3.x patch cycle, she holds her own. Not because she does everything, but because she does one thing well and with synergy in mind. Still, this design has consequences. She relies heavily on Kafka and Black Swan being present to function optimally, and that means your team becomes incredibly rigid. Most players who run DOT are already using Kafka and Black Swan in the 2 core slots, and Hysolins becomes the third. That's your entire comp, locked in, with almost no room for experimentation. And because she's a DPS, she doesn't add buffing utility or help in making the team more versatile. It's just more DOT damage, and that's it. If you're okay with that, she's perfect. But if you were hoping she'd open the archetype up a little more, yeah, she doesn't. On the upside, though, there's a little silver lining. Because she brings so much direct damage, and because her rotation is smoother than Black Swan's, some players are now considering dropping Black Swan from the comp, especially if they only have her at Eidolon 0. In that case, Black Swan's output can feel low compared to what Hysolins brings. If you do have higher Eidolons on Black Swan, though, she's still worth keeping. But it's nice that we're finally seeing some internal competition within the DOT team instead of being forced to run the exact same trio every time. Now, if you're not already invested in DOT characters, this is where things change. If you don't have Kafka or Black Swan, Hysolins doesn't really serve you. She's not plug-and-play. She doesn't support non-DOT teammates, and you won't get much value out of her unless you're fully committing to the playstyle. So this is definitely not a unit for everyone. If you're a new player, or someone who skipped Kafka and focused on follow-up or freeze teams, Hysolins might look cool, but she's not going to do much for your account. One of the biggest disappointments testers brought up is that the core problem of DOT teams still isn't addressed. What players really need is a harmony unit, a sparkle for DOT teams, someone who can buff status application rate, reduce enemy resistance, or help chain DOTs more efficiently. Hysolins doesn't do any of that. She's not a fundamental upgrade. She's a side grade that helps the numbers but not the system. And until we get that true support, DOT teams will continue to feel like they're stuck in this semi-meta limbo. Strong, but never best. That being said, as far as polish goes, Hysolins is rock solid. Her animations, pacing, damage balance, and DOT application rate all feel incredibly smooth. There's not much testers would change except maybe slightly increasing her damage multipliers. And if Hoyoverse did that, she'd probably be one of the cleanest releases we've seen for a DPS character in a while. So if you're someone who's into long-term DOT investment, she's going to be a huge win for your team. But again, she's not for everyone. So let's bring it back. Should you pull for Hysolins? If you already have Kafka and Black Swan and enjoy the DOT archetype, yes, she's almost mandatory to make the comp feel whole. But if you're not into DOT or don't own the key units, then she's completely skippable. Her strength is tied directly to that archetype and doesn't really go beyond it. Anyway, that's where beta testers stand with Hysolins right now. She's a strong but narrowly focused DPS who brings consistency, not innovation. If you were hoping for a DOT buffer, you'll still have to wait. But if you're already deep into Kafka Black Swan territory, skipping her could mean leaving your team unfinished. Let me know what you think. Are you planning to summon for Hysolins? Do you think Hoyoverse should prioritize releasing a true DOT support next? And if you want more detailed beta coverage, character analysis, or just raw, honest commentary like this, don't forget to subscribe. Save up to 25% on the Phanon banner at lootbar.gg. All you need is your UID and server. The link is in the description.